Well, hello and welcome to this presentation over the Multiverse 8 project. My name's Paul Robertson, and I am the guy that works behind the scenes for Kathy Murphy. She's the founder of the Beauty in the Book book club. It's the largest meet and greet book club in the world, and I'm around a lot of authors at her events, and yeah, I mean, basically, I've been reading since I was in the fifth grade, where I became a very avid reader. Once I started, I couldn't stop. I just read and read and read, and I have all my life. And so I've been in this, I guess you could say, industry for a long time. This is me, if you just want to get an idea of who I am. But basically, I see a lot of authors struggling with their marketing, with their promotion of their books, especially with the authors out there now. I've always been kind of thinking about how can we do something unique and different for these authors. And also, if I ever decided to try to write a book of my own, I want to already have an idea how I was going to try to market that book. But I'm a person that comes up with a lot of ideas, and this was one of the ideas that really kind of started materializing, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. And so the idea of this presentation is to present it, and you give me feedback about what you think about it. Is it viable? Is it not? Because if it is something that a lot of people are interested in, it is something that I would pursue. If not, it's still just a pretty cool idea, I think, to explore. So basically, first of all, you're probably wondering what the name means, Multiverse 8. Well, you have to have an understanding what a multiverse is. And if you're in the literature world, you should have some concept of what a shared world or a shared universe is. It's simply when authors write stories in the same world, where one a character from one book could possibly meet another character from another author's book. They exist in the same universal world. And what a multiverse is simply like taking that idea and then multiplying it out. It's also called parallel universes, alternate universes. It's a real theory out there that our universe is not the only universe. That there may be multiple universes out there. And so, what is the Multiverse 8 concept that I'm about to talk about? It's a network that I want to create online, like an application to house all the stories out there that's been written in the book industry, by simply creating a network of all these universes. So I'll explain it a little bit more if that's confusing. But if I can get you to see what I'm talking about here in this presentation, maybe you can explore this a little bit on your own as well. But if we did do this and we created this multiverse, it would be a way to keep your readers engaged with your world year-round while you write your next book. One of the issues for a lot of authors is that it's hard to create a lot of momentum when it'll take you 6 months to a year to write a really good novel, and so you write the book and then you spend the rest of your year trying to promote that book, and then you start the process all over if you are with an agent and a publisher. If you're an indie writer, I guess you could write many books or whatever, but you still have to promote those books, and you typically, authors who have series of books do better. And that works into this as well. But what if there was a way for you to be able to keep your readers engaged with your world and your story all year long while you're reading your next book, so that when you come out with your next book, that they're already ready to receive it? And that is one of the things about a shared universe that is a benefit of it. And we're going to talk about that as well. And then this multiverse concept would be a new and fun way for readers to find new worlds and new authors to follow all in one place. I'm gonna be honest with you. Sometimes, like when you're trying to find a new book and you get on Amazon or whatever, it's it's useful, but it's not a fun way of finding new books. Not for me, anyways. And so I'm the type of reader that when I found a story or a world that I really love, I don't really want to leave it. You know, like I don't want to read a really good book, and then I gotta go find a new book. I like series, and I like shared worlds where there's lots and lots of books, and I'll explain one in particular later on. But let's first explore and talk about what a shared universe is. What is the multiverse? Why is this relevant? What is this network I'm talking about? We're going to go into that now. Basically, an author normally creates their story that exists in their own world. That's just pretty much what happens. You write your story, it exists in this world. That's your world. You have to write it and to promote it, on your own. Well, in a shared world, the benefits is that authors work together in writing stories that exist in the same world. Basically, more books are being written by multiple authors. A shared world and a shared universe is basically the same thing, except you're talking about size and scope. So if you're talking about like a sci-fi or a fantasy book where there's space travel or different planets and different, whatever, that's going to be a shared universe. That's typically how we speak about that. But if it's just on Earth and all the stories exist on Earth, a lot of people just call that a shared world. But it's the same thing. It's just one is smaller than the other. That's basically what it is. Ideally, you could have a shared city, a shared country or whatever, if you wanted to go even deeper or niche or whatever. But these authors can help promote each other's worlds and universes by, just simply putting out more books or just working together to promote it. And like I said, readers who love the stories of these worlds benefit because they get to stay in the world longer. Because most people, when you find a good book, you don't really want to leave that world. It's interesting. Like Harry Potter right now, like J.K. Rowling is starting to write stories that happened before Harry Potter or whatever, and everybody's going crazy again about that world because, it's interesting. Because they're already interested in the world, and it's much easier to sell books to people who are already engaged with your world. And then also the stories themselves become very fleshed out and diverse because they're not dependent on one author. So those are benefits of a shared universe or a shared world. So what exactly is a multiverse? A multiverse is basically the same type concept as a shared universe, except bigger, as I said. A multiverse is a theory that exists out there, but is actually more relevant to literature or just entertainment in general, as you can see, like with Marvel and DC Comics and all these other, like Star Wars, Star Trek, that sort of stuff. It is a theory of multiple universes existing, which is a perfect concept in the world of literature. The multiverse theory has many names: parallel universes, other universes, alternate universes. So the idea of the multiverse project is to create the structure for the already existing multiverse that exists in literature. Like I was saying, thousands and thousands of books are written every year, and each one of those stories are theoretically in their own world. Some of them are shared universes, some of them are just universes of their own. But what if we could bring them all together in one network online and make a multiverse and basically work together to promote our books? And every author has created their own universe. So to network these universes together under one roof would be to create a shared multiverse. So what I'm talking about here is there are a lot of private multiverses out there, like Marvel, the Marvel multiverse, Star Trek, Star Wars. All these are privately owned multiverses, and there's not really one that's open. Like it's not impossible, but you have to go through a process to be a writer in one of those worlds, and it's not necessarily easy to do. Like you have to get a license and all that sort of stuff. So this would be open to all authors. So let me give you an example of what the multiverse would be. And you have the Vampire Diaries, you have the Interview with a Vampire, and you have the Twilight Saga or whatever. All three of these stories have vampires on Earth. But would you see Damon meet one of the vampires from Interview with a Vampire or New Moon from the Vampire Diaries? No, you wouldn't, because each one of these stories exists in their own world. There couldn't really be a crossover between the three of them. Let me help you visualize what I'm talking about here. Let's say that this is the world that the Vampire Diaries exist in. Well, this would be the Interview with a Vampire, and this would be Twilight. Theoretically, these are all universes of Earth in this theory. Now, if they were a part of the multiverse, theoretically, there would be a way for the characters in each one of these worlds to cross over. And that is a very interesting and dynamic idea. This is why Marvel does it. To explain a little bit further what this network would be, because you still may be a little confused. Let's say this circle right here is the multiverse, is what I'm talking about. So you can literally go to multiverse8.com, and you would be on that would be the home URL for the multiverse. Then one author comes and joins the multiverse here and brings their world and their stories, and they have a world on the multiverse network. Let's say an author 2 does the same thing, author 3 does the same thing. Well, you can write your own stories, and they would have nothing to do with the other authors. But theoretically, because they're all a part of this one major network called the Multiverse 8, they're, to a visitor, to a reader, there would be this possibility of their favorite characters from one author crossing over to another. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. It just means that they're connected, or indirectly connected together, even though they're completely separate. And so that creates a lot of dynamics and benefits for everyone involved. Is that you can create, if you did this, you could create a way to keep readers engaged in the overall story of the multiverse, and then promote each individual universe to those readers and keep them engaged all year long while you're writing your next book. So if we talk, let's go into shared worlds, because that's the smaller concept. Some of the challenges of shared worlds, which is why a lot of authors probably decide they don't even want to go that route, are that there are some issues with the process of collaborative writing, like continuity issues due to poor communication. So like if writer A and writer B and writer C are all writing this story in this shared world, and they all agree that, if writer A says in his book that there's an alien invasion and they destroy the Earth, well, writer B is writing a story that exists after that event happens and it's on Earth. It doesn't make any sense to the reader. There's a continuity issue. Like, you can't have something like that happen and all the life on Earth is destroyed in writer A's story, and then later on after that event, the writer B's writing a love story about an alien and a human. I mean, it doesn't work. That's a continuity issue that can happen when you're doing collaborative writing. Also, you have writing partners that just don't follow the rules agreed upon. Like, when you have a shared world, you have to have a set up rules and laws of physics. Or is the world going to have magic, or is it just not going to have any magic at all? Things like that. Stuff like, are there superheroes, or are there vampires? I mean, what's going on in this world? And we all got to agree upon the rules that this world follows. And sometimes writing partners, because they want something to happen in their story, they'll break those rules. And that's not cool, right? And partners not sticking to the overall storyline. I mean, typically when you have a shared world, there should be some type of overarching storyline that's in the background of every story. That's where the readers connect the stories to. It may not have any relevance to a particular story, but at least it's being referenced or whatever in the story, so that you can kind of connect that book with another book in the same world. Sometimes, that doesn't happen either, and partners not doing their part of the work. Sometimes with the collaborative writing, one author is supposed to do, right, maybe he's supposed to write a book by a certain date, and they don't hit that date, not even close or whatever, and now writer B has to wait on publishing their book because that book was supposed to come out before his or whatever, hers. So that can be an issue too. So those are challenges of shared worlds. I mean, there's a lot more, which is why it's a lot of work. So there's a lot of benefits to having a shared world or a shared universe, but there are also challenges. Well, that's the whole point of having a multiverse, is that you can get the same benefits of a shared world without having to do the collaborative writing part of it, because there's a multiverse effect going on. You can have your world where you are writing your stories independently of anybody else, no other writers or whatever, but the reader is still connecting your stories to another author's stories because they're part of the multiverse, the network itself. Even though your characters and your story have nothing to do with that author, you don't even have to talk to them. It's all working together. The multiverse storyline keeps readers engaged in your world without having you having to write more books. Simply because the multiverse itself would have a story, an overarching story that's keeping the readers engaged all year long. And then because you're on the network, they can find your world, even though they may not even found the network from you. Another author may have brought a reader to the network, but then they found your work on the network, and you just found a new reader, someone to buy more of your books. And you don't have to collaborate at all to participate, but you could collaborate if you chose to do so, because if there is a multiverse, there are ways. Especially if you're in the sci-fi and the fantasy realms, where you could collaborate with other authors from the other universes if you decide to do that, and you just have to write the story around how that would happen. I mean, it's possible. That's the whole thing about the multiverse, is that it opens a lot of doors for you to do creative things with other authors without having to do it all the time with those authors. And it would allow all fan fiction, all the categories, if contemporary, science fiction, fantasy, drama, urban, whatever. I mean, all the stories can fit inside of the multiverse. It doesn't have to all be science fiction and fantasy. It can be all things, all categories, because you could be a romance writer and just write romance, but theoretically that it could be in a world with no magic, a world just like ours, and you're writing these real life romance stories, but it's still a part of the multiverse where all these science fiction things are happening as well. So that works out pretty well as well. And basically, it's tackling the challenges of shared universes would make, allowing a fan. All right, there's a thing called Kindle worlds out there that I found just recently, and they do it's very similar to what I'm thinking about doing, but it's not quite what I'm thinking about doing. Basically, they allow people to write fan fiction in worlds. They can get a license and write and stuff like the Vampire Diaries. People can write books and sell those books and make money from it. But the reason why a lot of authors would like for people to write fan fiction it's because it expands their worlds. The more books, the more stories, the bigger the universe becomes, the more people who become more engaged with your books. The problem is controlling what exactly goes out there and that sort of thing. That's what licenses and all that sort of stuff is for. And so this allowing fan fiction would make more sense, as it would expand your universe for your readers. And basically that's what you're wanting to do on a network where every reader is looking for universes with a lot of stories. They want a lot of stories in the world they love. They're binge readers. We live in a time when everybody binge reads or binge watches Netflix or YouTube or whatever. We don't really want to wait another year to get another story from your world. If I read a great book, I want another one right now. That's kind of how everybody is. And if you could supply that need, you could be very successful. And that's why allowing fan fiction will work. And, you know, that's what we're trying to build with this kind of a network. And also tackling the challenges of shared universes would make more sense because you would have access to a readership that is looking for shared worlds. And that's basically, you know, what the beauty of this network would be, is that you can basically do what you're doing now and become a part of something bigger without having to do any extra additional work. And so some examples of private multiverses would be Star Wars, Marvel's MCU, which a lot of what like Star Trek and DC animated universe, whatever. When they say multiverse, what they're saying is comic books, movies, the books, animation. The reason why you can get so many different stories. Say like you got Batman, and you have like there's so many different Batman stories, and Batman can die in one story, and then they can write another story about Batman in another form. It's because they're using the concept of a multiverse. They're saying that in this universe, Batman dies. In this universe, Batman saves the world or whatever. And there's different storylines, but they're using the concept of multiple universes so they can tell the kind of story they want, and they're not limited to one single story. So like if you had just one story, one universe, if you killed Batman off in the story, then that's it. He's done. He's not coming back. But if you had multiple universes, you could kill him off in one universe and then start a completely new story in another universe, and it just opens up the door for storytelling. And the best example of this in literature is the Dungeons and Dragons games and novels, which this is really where my heart comes from as far as when I'm talking about. The Dungeons and Dragons game, it was a board game back in the 70s and 80s. Became very, very popular. And the idea was you got these characters and you had to basically make up stories about the characters that you received. Well, there was these two authors called named Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss, and they started playing with this character called Wrestling. And I'm just very loosely paraphrasing what happened. You should go read this. It's a very interesting story. But basically, they started playing with these characters, and they decided they were going to write a book about these characters because they really liked what they came up with. And they came out of Dungeons and Dragons came the Dragonlance world, which was a Dungeons and Dragons. Originally, it was a game from the Dungeons and Dragons, but it became its own world and a shared world over that. And over time, over the years, over 190 novels were written in this shared world. Well, they didn't write all 190 novels, obviously. They wrote a lot of them, but many other authors came and wrote books in this shared world. And I was one of the people who fell in love with the story. And this is Tracy Hickman and Margaret Weiss. And I love their writing. They're really great authors. And basically the concept came from this. This is Wrestling. This is the magician. He's a very complex character. And he has a brother called Caraman. And a twin brother named Caraman. And then there was the rest of these characters where they became the companions, as they all kind of came from this one town, and then they had to go out and basically save the world. You know, this is fantasy at its best. Well, each one of these characters all broke off and had their own stories written, and then the world just kind of grew around that, and you know, there were just books after books after books were written, and I mean, I would say that probably one every month or two every month were being published. And let me tell you, like, if they published a book, I bought it. This is not my collection. This is a picture from online, but I pretty much have all these books. I have lots. In fact, in the picture I showed you, you see a lot of them behind me at the beginning of this presentation. I have all these books. I love these stories, and I have read them over and over and over again. But that is essentially what the benefit of a shared world is that once a person or a reader falls in love with a world, doesn't necessarily have to be fantasy or sci-fi, but if they fall in love with the characters and they fall in love with the world, pretty much any book you write after that, as long as they're still of quality, if they're a part of that world, they're probably going to buy the book. That is the best form of marketing, is when you have a book that's already sold before you publish it. And so, what would be the goals of the Multiverse 8 project? Basically, we want to provide, or I'm going to say, I'm talking about I want to provide the structure for all authors to create and be a part of a multiverse network. So you're essentially become like creating the Dragonlance world, but you're just doing it in a bigger scale. Like, I would love for it to get to the fact that whenever you publish a book, you have lots and lots of readers ready to buy it because you're part of the Multiverse project. Also, I want to create a storyline series that keeps readers engaged with the multiverse concept so that we can promote the network's worlds and authors. Basically, everything is driven by story. So, like, the multiverse would have its own story that you would be drip feeding to your readers. Don't give it all to them at once. Give it to them over time so they keep coming back and back and more until the coming to the Multiverse website would be a habit and ingrained in them to do. It becomes like Marvel or Star Trek or whatever, where you pretty much know the brand and you always come back. Also, I would like to start an online book club that features only stories from the Multiverse 8 project. That is essentially how you really promote and grow any readership, is through a book club, especially if you could make it focused around just your stories. When you're in a part of a book club and you're reading this story from this place or reading that story from that place, there's no momentum for those particular authors. But if you could build a book club just around you, then every time you have a book club meeting, people are buying your books, not just randomly over here and over there. So that's something I would like to start for the network. And then allow authors to showcase their universes by contributing short stories, novelettes, novellas as free content to readers. But you can still sell it on the retail site. So what I'm saying here is, the thing is, if you want to keep readers engaged with your worlds, is that you got to be continuously feeding them story. If you can do that, then they're going to stay in your world all the time. That's why Marvel and all these big companies, Disney, whatever, they can keep their fans completely immersed into their world, is because they can continuously feed them with new story, because they have writers, they have directors, they have these studios continuously putting out stuff, new content, cartoons, animation, whatever. And if we can do the same thing by feeding them short stories, novelettes, which is about 10 to 15 or 20,000 words, and then novellas, 20 to 50,000 words, small pieces of a very large pie. If we continuously feed them story that they love, keep them immersed into our worlds, then when you come out with a novel, they're ready to buy. That's the ideal. And then, like I said, if you drip those stories out over time, you're going to bring them back to the network over and over again. You can do that through email. And provide, one of the tools, also two things we want to do is provide tools on the site to help authors collaborate in their shared universes. So if you did have 2 or 3 other authors working in your world, writing the canon or whatever, that we could make it easier to collaborate together doing that. And the last thing is to also provide tools to help authors license their shared universe for fan fiction, like they do in Kindle World, but maybe do it a little bit differently. So, this is not a sales pitch. I'm just explaining what the idea is. This would be free for authors to join. Whether that would be limited to a small amount of authors or to all authors, that's debatable. Because this isn't complete. This isn't concrete. I'm still trying to flesh this out. But the gist of it is, it would be free for authors to join and create and bring their worlds to the network. But it does cost money to do this, to build it, to maintain it, to grow it, or whatever. And so we would ask that if you join the network, to place advert place an advert in your books promoting your universe on the network. So basically, if you write a book, publish it, at the end of the book when it's over, you can put pages back there, talking about going to your website or whatever. Just put an advert promoting the network and send your readers to your universe on the network, where there will be an option for them to join if they want to get involved. And that is how we can collectively grow this network without spending any additional money, is sending the readers that you already have reading your books to the network to join, and then grow the network that way. And then it doesn't cost anybody anything. And then how we would make money, would be the links that we put on your universe, to your book for these readers to buy, would be our affiliate links. So if you're going to sell your books on Amazon, let us put our affiliate links so that when they go to Amazon to buy your books, we're getting a commission off of that. Once again, that doesn't cost you anything because you're going to have to pay that fee to Amazon anyway. And so once again, that's a way of helping us pay for everything that's happening. And then basically, if you want to showcase your story showcase your universe, your story to the network, you can do that. It's optional. You wouldn't have to do it, but if you wanted to, it'd be a way to grow your readership and grow your sales. Because the ideal is, if you contribute, say you 10,000 word novelette, a showcase piece story about something in your universe, you give it to us to give to the reader. The reader reads it, they like it, and then there's a link to your universe. They go there, they find your books, and they buy your books because they loved your story. That's the idea. And we're going to talk about what the power of that would be. So once again, we're going to use this as an example. Let's say that this is you. You join the network, and you have 4 or 5 books you've written already. And you put an advert into your books. Your readers are coming to the network and they're joining. But so are all the other authors doing the same thing. Let's say we have 10 or 20,000 readers because all the authors are growing the network with their books. Now, what we're going to be doing is drip feeding the stories to the readers. So let's say we have, I think it was 52 books here. Let's say we have 52 books. Some of those are the Multiverse 8 storyline, and some of them are just showcase pieces of the author network, authors' books. So let's say a reader comes, they read your book, or reads another author's book, and they come in and they join. Well, now they're going to be going in this funnel, because now let's say we have 52 books. So every week we be sending them an email saying there's a new book ready for you to read on the network. They get that email, they read it, they come back to the network, and then they get to read that book. And every week that's happening. Every single week is happening to every reader that we have on the network. However many readers we have. Let's say we got 10,000 readers. Well, let's say you just finished. Let's say that on the 3rd week, your book, you're the 3rd book that's in the funnel. So like on the 3rd week that they get this email, all 1,000 of those readers, on their 3rd week that they've been a part of the network, would be reading your book. So as the network grows, the more traffic that should be going to your universe if they're loving your story, if it's a really good story. And with that traffic, you should see an increase in book sales, because as the network grows and grows and grows, from everybody bringing their readers to the network, if you have a showcase book in that drip feed funnel, well, when it gets to your week for that reader, they're going to read your book, and then they're going to come to your universe and find your books and buy your books. That's pretty much what the ideal is, if that makes any sense. And that way you can keep your readers engaged with the network, because you're giving them story continuously. and you email them the stories that you have available to them, according to whenever they join. So it, like I said, this wouldn't be happening all at the same time. You know, you may have 100 subscribers join in January, 100 subscribers. I'm just using easy numbers in, you know, February, March, April, May. Well, your subscribers in January are going to be on a different book in the funnel than your subscribers in May, because they joined earlier. So, but as you continuously add on to your subscriber base, you have new readers falling through your books. That's kind of how it will work. And so, yeah, like I said, if you had 52 books, you could do it every week of the year. If you had 365 books in your funnel, you could do one every day. Obviously, as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, your subscriber, I mean, your books that you're going to be giving out, obviously, as it gets bigger, you would have to divide by categories and things like that. Those are some things you would have to work out later on. And if you're curious about what this multiverse continuity storyline would be, I've already got a pretty good idea of where we would start with that. This is the overarching storyline of the multiverse itself. Basically, in theory, there are an infinite number of universes. If you're wondering why universe 8, if you turn the 8 sideways, it's the infinity sign. And so I just thought that would be a good number to use. But the main story would be based in universe 8, which is why it's called the multiverse 8 in the title, if you were wondering. So the story would be this is where it would start. There would be some multiverse travelers from a very far universe. I don't know what number or whatever. But basically one day in universe 8, this ship would materialize right outside of the Earth. Like this huge ship, just like you see in like all these alien invasion movies, that type of deal. Where there's this huge ship, they just materialize outside of Earth. The Earth panics, obviously, because they think they're aliens, and they don't know if they're here to do harm or whatever. And the ship kind of just lowers down into the atmosphere, and it lands in America, in the United States, somewhere where there's not a lot of people, like Montana, Wyoming, that sort of thing. And they basically land the ship. And the United States sends out its military, ready to fight, just like you see in like Independence Day or whatever. They're ready to go. But basically, the ship lands and the door opens, and something, I don't know exactly the number, but I'm just saying 1,000 human children walk out of the ship along with 7 AI units. That's what happens. And so the military holds, they realize these are human beings. These are not aliens, or they look like human beings at least. And so they send someone in, and the AI units walk forward, and they explain why they've come. And basically the gist of it is, this story hasn't been fleshed out or anything. The gist of it is they are multiverse travelers. They're from a different universe far, far in the future. So they've not only gone back in time, and they've traveled to a different universe. And what it is those AI units are like the crowning achievement of humanity, of all the multiverses. And what it is the AI units, the human beings have figured out how to capture human consciousness. And so these of any living intelligent beings consciousness. And so the AI units collect those consciousness in this database. And so humans that have died in their universe, their consciousness is captured in the AI unit, and they can recall and talk to those consciousness. That's the general gist of it. This is sci-fi. And the reason why they've come is because they're searching the multiverse for the original universe, which is universe 1, and they can't find it because they believe that it's the source of the multiverse, and they're trying to figure out what happened in the first universe to cause the multiverse to come into place. And basically their world and their universe was falling apart or whatever, and they have been searching for this universe, and right before their universe was destroyed or whatever, they actually found a single digit universe, and they didn't know if it was universe 1 or universe whatever 9, but they didn't have time to really try to figure that out. They had to send um, a ship with the AI units to that Earth because they needed humans to continue the work, and so they couldn't send a lot of people on the ship, even though the ship is enormous. The resources to do that would have been incredible. They needed to send children who were the shock of going to a primitive world would not be so hard on them because they're children. They don't really understand what they've lost. So they didn't want to send grown-ups. So they set the 7 AI units, because there's 7 of them, with these shared consciousness, and basically send those children, and they leave for this universe. They don't know which number it is. They just know it's a single digit. That universe is destroyed, and all the consciousness are now inside the AI unit, and now they're here. And when I say here, I'm just saying pretend we're in Universe 8. And so they get here, they realize they're not in Universe 8, they're in Universe 8. And now they got to continue the search for Universe 1 now, and they need our help. So the gist of it is now they're going to help us with our technology. They're going to show us how to travel the multiverse, time, space, dimensions, the whole thing. But the problem is a lot of the resources are not on Earth that they need to do this because they used it all up to get to this universe. And now there's a lot of story. They're going to help us with our technology so that we can travel through space to other worlds in our dimension, in Universe 8, to build the resources necessary to jump dimensions and all that sort of stuff. And but in the meanwhile, because it's going to take a long time for the world to be able to do this, those children are going to be grown by the time they probably can do this, and they've got to grow up in a world that they don't understand, and they got to grow up in a world where they consider humans primitive, which they would be to them. And how is the world going to react to these children? Are they going to be ostracized? I mean, are they going to be welcoming? How are they going to be treated? There's a whole social dynamics and the whole thing that going on. But these AI units are really one unit with 7 bodies or whatever. But the doctor or whoever it is that's really working with the AI units, with the ship and stuff, is telling the stories of the multiverse, because they have a copy of all the consciousness of the beings of the multiverse. So basically what it does is the AI unit can literally tell it, if they want to tell a story, they can say, all right, I can tell you a story about this human or this whatever in this world or on this universe, and this is what happened. And they can literally get that person, if they're dead, they can get that person to tell the story themselves, or they can tell it themselves. The AI unit. So this is not concrete. This is just a general idea of what the story of the multiverse is. It's about explaining and getting readers to understand what this concept is. And so that's just a general continuity story that will be working behind the scenes. So to make this project work, first we have to get enough interest from authors to validate the project, because if authors think this is stupid, then there's no need to even build it. But if enough authors see some value in this, next thing would be to build a web platform to do this, and that would be that's going to be one of the first obstacles to tackle. Then the second thing is to actually write these multiverse stories, because we want to write a series of them, short stories, novelettes, that sort of thing, and then eventually get to a novella series or whatever, to be a part of the book club. And obviously a book club would be next. So there's a lot of things to do, a lot of obstacles to tackle, but the first part is getting the interest from the authors. And of course, you are invited to join the network. If you've stayed this long and watched this presentation, you're invited to join. So there should be an email opt-in form below to put in your contact information, and when you get an email, the welcome email, you can reply to that email to me with questions or suggestions, because I am very open to all that, because right now it's just a project. If I committed to this would become a business that is designed to help everyone involved, all the authors and everything. And then there should be a link to a Facebook group where if you are interested and you want to talk to other people who are interested, want to help flesh out the ideas as a group, you can do that. And so that's it, guys. That is just me explaining to you what this Multiverse 8 network is. It's just basically a new creative way for readers to find new worlds, new authors, new stories. It's a way for authors to collaboratively work together without actually having to work together, and keep your readers engaged with your stories through a continuity type overarching story called the Multiverse. And I'm just really curious to know what you think. And yeah, just like I said, you're invited, and just reach out to me, or and join the list of people, so that makes it easier for me to contact you guys that are interested. And in the Facebook group, talk to me. I mean, that's what I'm here for. I want to know more what you think. What are your struggles? What are your concerns? What are you trying to do? Do you think this could work? Do you think this would be beneficial? What do you see could possibly be challenges or whatever? I need to know that. So I'm going to end this video right here. On this website, I'm going to go deeper into some of the other, some of the individual slides in this presentation. I'm going to go a little bit deeper with other videos and on other different pages. So if you want more information, you want to dig a little deeper, go to those pages and just watch me I'm going to be online and show you what some of the Wikipedia descriptions, all this stuff are, because this is a very big idea. This thing called the multiverse is huge, and it's it's just a huge idea. So thank you for staying this long, and good night.